إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما آمين يا رب العالمين. All praise and thanks is for Allah. We praise Him, seek His help and forgiveness, and we seek refuge in Allah from evil of our spirits and our bad deeds. Whom Allah guides, no one can misguide, and whom He let go astray, then there is no guide for him. I testify that there is no God except Allah without any partners, and I testify that Muhammad ﷺ is His slave and messenger. And after that, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed devil. O my Lord, open my chest, facilitate my task, untie the knot of my tongue, so they may understand my speech. O our Lord, increase us in knowledge. O Allah, benefit us from that which you teach us, and teach us that which is beneficial for us, and increase us in knowledge. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. Okay, so before we continue, last week we covered part of the Surah Yusuf. Important lessons were that whenever we are struck by a difficult circumstance, it doesn't really mean that we are evil or we have committed something extremely bad and that's why we are being put in that situation. Rather, every good thing that happens to us or every bad thing that happens to us is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see how we behave. So going through extreme difficult tests is just a way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests His people, His slaves, and whoever passes that test, then the levels of a person increase. Secondly, we saw that there was natural sibling rivalry, which is natural. Often people become super sensitive that why everyone's treatment is good to other siblings and not me. And even if it's not visible, sometimes even in situations we feel that way, even though if it's not universal, it's not the parents are always preferring one child, but we have this feeling because devil is there to put evil in our hearts, to cause disunity in the family, in the community. Whenever there are negative thoughts coming to your head about other people, about your family members, then remember to avert them and think good about them, because good thoughts help a person. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I am in the dhan of my abd, I'm in the supposition of my abd. Yani, when you suppose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and you seek His forgiveness and you go towards Him, then He will treat you with mercy. But when you know that Allah is going to punish you, then because you thought so, then you will get punished, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I am in the supposition of my slave. And the third is that when we are struck with an extreme difficult circumstance that we cannot change, then it is okay to feel sad and sorry, but submission is the key and being patient is the key, because that way we can deserve our reward. And this is what shows how submissive we are to the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because nothing happens to us without Allah's decree. Sometimes we start blaming people for situations. It is actually an opportunity to remain patient and turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, let's continue another life turn in Yusuf Islam's life. In the last ayah, we learned that he has already turned in his ashud age, which is the mature age that scholars have said that is between 30 to 40 years of age. So a person is in the best mental and physical capacity in these years. Before that, he's not mentally and physically there strong enough. And then even after 40, the decline starts, and a person starts declining first in their physical self, and then eventually their memory and everything starts impacting. So he is in his best age right now at this moment. When he was taken from his house, from the well, then at that time he was only 17. This is what we learned from the traditions. We don't know the exact age, but it was the age where he probably wasn't a fully grown man, because later on when his brothers see him, they will not recognize him. So he was younger. He was a younger boy. Wallahu alam, usually 17-year-old boys they're developing, and as they grow older, then they are more recognizable into their manhood form, complete full form. So now what happens in this time when Yani he is here in the house of Aziz, which Aziz is a minister of the Pharaoh. So he is in house of the minister of the Pharaoh, and he has spent almost, if we take these dates to be exact, probably 13 years already. So if he is around 30 plus, then more than 13 years he's been there in service in the house, and he is turned into a grown man now. وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه. So she seduced him. Who seduced him? The woman who was in whose house he was from against his will. Yani Yusuf alayhi salam in was seduced by the wife of Aziz, who was he serving, and she became inclined to him because of his extreme beauty, and he wasn't willing. And Tafsihi, meaning against his will. It isn't that Yusuf al-Islam was also partly in love with the woman. No, it wasn't so. She seduced him or inclined to him without his will. And one day in a situation, وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابَ وَقَالَتْ حَيْتَ لَكَ. She closed the door on him and she said, "Come to me." Um, so she is asking him for the indecent act, the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Yusuf alayhi salam responds back. قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. He said, "I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." So she is calling him to disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he seeks refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani he refuses, he abstains from that evil action, and he refuses to do that action with her. Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwa. And he says that indeed my Lord has, my Rabb has provided me good place of living, best place of living. And Rabbi here is not referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, Rabbi is being used as the master whom Yusuf al-Islam was enslaved to, the man who purchased Yusuf al-Islam when he was sold by those water fetchers who were with the caravan, and they found Yusuf al-Islam in the well. So this man is now master of Yusuf al-Islam. So Yusuf al-Islam is saying that how could I do this bad action to the wife of a man who has been so good to me, who's given me good living? So he refuses to his wife, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Indeed, the wrongdoers, the unjust people, do not become successful. Yani, if we do this bad action, this evil action, then it's not that we both will be successful. I do not want to commit anything wrong because I will fail then. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ. Certainly, she inclined to him, yani she was interested in him, she drew closer to him. وَهَمَّ بِهَا. And he was inclined to her as well. Yani now after this conversation where he is trying to convince her to not commit this evil action, she is coming closer to him and she is trying to pull him towards herself. She is seducing him. لولا أن رأى برهان ربي. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said Muhammad biha. He was also going to be inclined towards her because he's a young man. He's a young grown man. He's in the years where he would be inclined to the beauty of a woman. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he had not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not shown him a sign and evidence, then he would have inclined to her as well in that situation. Yani, when we cannot ascribe piety to ourselves, we are human beings, and that's why it is extremely important that we protect ourselves from such situations where we can come across to a place of sin, or we will fall in sin just because we were in the situation. So if here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not protected him, it's not that Yusuf al-Islam was free of sin, rather it's Allah's protection that was there for him. What sign he showed him? Wallahu alam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him some sign that maybe through the inspiration or something, like he was given inspiration when he was in the well that he will eventually come out of the well, and then he will speak to his brothers when they will not even recognize him. He will be in that situation. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Yusuf alayhi salam here as well. He gave him that evidence, showed him that evidence which stopped Yusuf alayhi salam to be inclined towards her. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. Likewise, we avert from him the evil and the indecent act. Yani, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him, protected him from doing this bad or evil action or indecent action. Innahu min ibadina al-mukhlasin. Indeed, he was among our sincere slaves. So it shows that when a person is sincere throughout as a general living all day-to-day life, then Allah's protection come for that person in difficult situations. So being sincere is the key in order to gain that special inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know how sometimes you have this feeling of sixth sense from a person or a situation to be bad, and you realize you feel that you should run away from that situation, you should stay away from that situation. This is inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a protection for you because you incline to protect yourself. So it starts with you desiring piety, and then Allah's help come for you through inspiration. And that's why we're supposed to not condemn all the thoughts that we are having. We need to pay good attention to all the positive thoughts we have, because often they're not our self thoughts. Often they're inspired to us through with the angel. Just like we get evil thoughts, evil inspirations from the devil to do evil deeds. Similarly, we get positive inspiration from an angel, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appoint angels, angels do their job, right? So if some angels are protecting us when we recite either from the morning till evening, and similarly. So angels are surrounding us. So we are inspired by the angel to do the right things as well. But when we stop paying attention to those thoughts that we are being inspired with, and also our soul as well, nafs al-lawama, it also condemns us for doing bad things. Always it tells you, this is a bad thing. What did you do? You did such a bad, atrocious thing. So these thoughts that are coming in our soul as well, they're all Allah's help for us. But when we silence those things, we don't listen to them, then a person becomes indecent and they stop hearing those thoughts because they stop paying attention to it. And then they become stronger and stronger towards the evil side, and they pay attention to the devil's whispers more, and they follow that path more. That's what's important. When we are given this inspiration to stop from a wrong thing or to do a good thing, then we should act right away, not delay it or ignore it. واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر. They both raced to the door. So he is trying to get out of the situation. He runs away from her. So istabaqa is when people are racing with each other. So here they both raced each other, and he's running to the door, and she tore his shirt from behind, from his back. So she tried to stop him, intervene between him and the door so he would not leave the place. So because of her being desperate, so she pulls his shirt from the back, and his shirt gets ripped from the back. وَأَلْفَيَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. And they both found her husband at the door. So there's another plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's exposed right away when she tries to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam. Let's see, she suddenly switches the story. Instead of taking the blame, she blames Yusuf alayhi salam. As soon as she saw her husband, قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا. She says, what is the punishment for who intends evil with your family? Like ahl is literally the family. But here it is referring to the wife. So she says, what is the punishment for someone who intends to do bad thing with your wife? إِلَّا أَن يُسْجَنَ أَوْ أَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Now she suggests that either he should be imprisoned or he should be punished with a painful punishment. And we know how pharaohs in their time, how they were pushing people into extreme difficult labor, and they were whipping people even though people were weak, and they were not giving them enough food either. So they were weak because of hard labor and difficult circumstances that they had to live in. So she's suggesting that either we should imprison him or put him in some difficult work, because right now he is living in home and serving the minister of Pharaoh. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي. Now he doesn't remain silent, and this is very important, that when a person is innocent, they should also speak up. Sometimes people are innocent, but they say, I'm innocent. Why do I have to give explanation? No, you have to give explanation because other people are human beings. They don't know what's in your heart. So you have to defend yourself. You have to speak up for yourself. This is what Yusuf alayhi salam does. He says, she tried to seduce me to herself against my will. وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. And a witness testified from her family. Now this part, who was this witness? There are different opinions among scholars. In the Tafseer, we see that In Tafseer Muyassar, there's only one opinion mentioned that it was a child who was in the cradle and he spoke. And the chains go back to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, he's famous for taking narrations from Israeliyat. What are Israeliyat? They are the narrations of Judaism and Christianity. So he was learning a lot of things from those religions, and he would take the missing part of the stories from the from Quran or Hadith from Prophet ﷺ, and then he would learn from the other scholars as well, which is not forbidden. As far as you stick to the correct laws, rules, and regulations of Islam, you can accept their narrations because, or you cannot, but you cannot say that they're 100% correct. You can say maybe this is the correct story. But then there are two more opinions that it wasn't a child in the cradle who was made to speak by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to prove the innocence of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Others say that he was a bearded man, like he was a fully grown man who was there in the house, and he testified on behalf of Yusuf al-Islam. And third opinion is that it was an elite angel who was there to testify for Yusuf al-Islam. So anyway, whatever the means were taken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wallahu alam, but his innocence was proven right then and there by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Either a child spoke, a child in the cradle spoke. What he said, in kana kamisuhu qudda min qubulin, if his shirt was torn from behind, from the front, fasadakat, then she is truthful. Yani, he tried to attempt on her, assault her, and she tried to save herself, so his shirt should be ripped into from the front because she's trying to protect herself from his attack. Wahuwa min al-kadhibin, and he's the liar. Because now both parties are trying to push the blame away to the other. They're saying, no, it's not my fault. And she's saying it's not my fault. So the situation is where we need a third party to decide what happened. So now he's suggesting this. وَإِنْ كَانَ قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِنْ دُبُرٍ فَكَذَّبَتْ وَهُوَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And if his shirt is torn from the back, then she is a liar and he is the truthful. He's one of the truthful ones. So when they saw the shirt, فَلَمَّا رَأَى قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِنْ دُبُرٍ, then when they saw that his shirt was torn from the back, قَالَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ كَيْدِكُنْ. He said, it is your cunning plot, your deception. Kunna is a feminine form of a verb, so a pronoun. So the husband of that woman, Aziz himself, he spoke. He realized that it isn't Yusuf Islam's fault. He's not trying to attempt on her or assault her. Rather, it is her who tried to seduce him, and that's why his shirt is torn from the back. So he says to his wife, he turns to his wife. It's like, we are in a situation, in a scenario, in a scene where someone is asking that, look at this, and they looked at it, and then he turned towards his wife and he said, this is your deception that you're saying that, he tried to assault you, but you are the one actually who is blameworthy. Inna kaydakunna azim, indeed your plotting, your deception is great. Yani, women, when they plot and plan things and they create deceptive plans, then they are famous for it. So he's saying that this is one of those womanly plannings, deceptions that you are planning. And so he blames her. And now he turns to Yusuf alayhi salam. He says, Yusufu arid an hada. He says, Yusuf, turn away from this, overlook from this. Yani, he doesn't want a big deal out of this situation. He doesn't want to do something to Yusuf alayhi salam, move him away from the house, take his job away. And he doesn't want to get rid of his wife. He doesn't want to divorce his wife. So he was a wise man. He tried to get this situation be solved. He said, okay, forgive her, overlook from her mistake. وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. And now he turns it towards his wife. He says, you should seek forgiveness for your sin. So he says to his wife that she should seek forgiveness from Yusuf alayhi and say sorry to him that she committed that sin, or general as a repentance personal level that she should seek forgiveness for her sin and not, of course, commit again. Innaki kunti min al-khati'in, indeed you are of the sinners. Yani, you are the one who is committing mistake here, so you should be the one correcting your actions. وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. Now the story stays in the house, but house of a minister, imagine there are many, many slaves, workers there. Their stories go from one year to another. The story spreads around. It goes to the people of the town. Now women in the town, they hear this story, and this they say things about the wife of Aziz. وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه. So the women of the town, they said, wife of Aziz, she tried to seduce her slave boy. Fatah is a young slave boy. Fatah is literally means a young boy, but Fatah was literally used in sense of a slave boy, a boy who is enslaved. So because slavery was often was common even at the time when Prophet ﷺ, arrived at that time as well, it was common to have slaves. But then Islam actually abolished slavery, and most of the expiations that we find, they often have free a slave, free a slave. If you took an oath and you couldn't fulfill the oath, then free a slave. So Islam is against slavery, of course, and but it was part of the society, so cleansing was done step by step. So he, so the women are talking about her that she inclined her young boy, a young slave, towards herself against his will, because the story didn't stay hidden. It went out in the town. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا hubba. Certainly, love has his love. Her love has penetrated into her heart. Shagafa is the thin membrane of the heart. So when something goes very close to the heart, so that's by the man that, she was inclined to, in love to that boy, his slave, so much that she tried to commit this indecent action with him. Inna lanaraha fi dalalin mubin. Indeed, verily we see her as being clearly misguided. It's easy to point fingers, right? When someone is in a situation and they end up doing a wrong action, it's easy to point fingers than being in that situation. That's why it's extremely important that we don't gossip about these kind of matters, and we don't consider ourselves to be extremely pious and others to be so evil that if they ended up committing a sin that is foreign to us, then we list them as evil person. Similarly, in the last class as well, we saw that the dad Yaqub alayhi salam, he did not say your brothers are evil. He said that devil is there to put enmity in the hearts of your brothers, so don't narrate your dream to your brothers. So here as well, we learned that you cannot blame others for their mistakes and publish them, publicize them, and blame them for something wrong they have done. Maybe if you were put in that situation, you would commit the same mistake. Let's continue what happens next in the story. فلما سمعت بمكرهن أرسلت إليهن وأعتدت لهن متكئا وآتت كل واحد منهن سكينا. So when she heard about their deceptive talks about her, Yani, they were gossiping about her. So she planned something. She sent an invitation to all of them. She invited them all at a party at her house. And she prepared cushions. She arranged cushions for all of them to sit, recline on. And then she had for each one of them a knife. She was a smart woman, right? So she's putting them in the same situation where she's in. So she gives them all a knife to cut the food, and she invites them all. Then she says to Yusuf alayhi salam, وَقَالَتْ اخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِنَّ. Then she asks him to come out on them, on the women. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ. And when the women saw him, it became extremely huge for them. Like it was enormous for them when they saw him, his beauty. وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. They were so astonished that they didn't even realize while they were cutting their food that they wounded their own hands. وَقُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. And they said حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, yani it's an expression of amazement. So حَاشَ لِلَّهِ literally means protection of Allah, or purity belongs to Allah. مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا. This is not a man. In هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. Rather, it could only be a noble angel. So they are impressed by his beauty now when they saw him, even though previously they were blaming the wife of Aziz for doing something indecent as if it was something despicable, and they are free from that sin. قالت ذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه. She said, this is which you were blaming me for. Now, because she can speak up for herself. So she says that, you look at yourself, what you did to yourself. You wounded your hands by just looking at him once. and he's living in her house, imagine, and she has to go through entire day seeing him around and having those feelings for him. That's why it's extremely important that we remove ourselves from that situation. We resolve that situation because we are human beings and we should not put ourselves in such situation where we can fall for that sin. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدتُّهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَاسْتَعْصَمَ. Certainly, I seduced him against his will, but he abstained and refused. وَلَئِن لَّمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا آمُرُهُ لَيُسْجَنَنَّ وَلَا يَكُونَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. And verily, if he did not do what I command him, then will definitely imprison him so that he be humiliated. Yani he's saying that now you're living a good life in my house, but if he didn't obey my command, my order, and didn't do what she's asking or demanding from him, then she's threatening him that she will get him imprisoned and he will be humiliated because right now he is probably a noble slave. He has a status. You know how even among um, people who serve a minister, their ranks. So their ranks among the slaves as well, among the serving people as well. We don't have slaves, but we know how, even security, we don't take security as slaves anymore, right? But in the past, there were slaves and all that. So he's there, he has a rank, he's learning, he's probably dealing with all those people who are coming in the house as well. So she threatens to take all that away from him and get him imprisoned and be humiliated, being blamed for something he hasn't done. قال رب السجن أحب إلي. He said, "Oh my Lord, the prison is preferred for me. Yani, it's more appropriate. I feel it's more appropriate for me to be imprisoned, to be sent to the jail. مما يدعونني إليه, from what they call me to." Now, it's this yad'unani is plural. It's not singular anymore. Yani, now all the women who are together, they are demanding the same thing from him. Now, she's not alone in that pursuit. She gathered up some friends who are also inclined to do the same thing. So he's seeking refuge from all of them now. So in this whole situation, we see Aziz is not there. Of course, men are not at home all the time, right? They're working. He's a minister. He's busy. He's busy doing work outside. So, and this whole arrangement is done where he's not present. So Yusuf alayhi salam is making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here. He said, Qala Rabbi, O my Rabb, prison is better for me, is preferred for me than what they're inviting me to, yani the indecent act they're asking me to do. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ أَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَأَكُن مِّنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And if you did not avert their plan from me, their deception from me, then I will be inclined to them. Yani I will be willing to do what they're asking me to do if I remain in this situation, and I will become ignorant. So I will be among those who are ignorant. Ignorant people who do not have knowledge, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, then they do whatever they want to do, whatever they desire to do. But when someone has knowledge, they should not act ignorant because they know this is what is the right thing to do. But what happens when we do not protect ourselves from that situation, where our emotions are not remaining in check, they're taking over our mind, then we also act as an ignorant person. And often people commit sin in that state, right? They know this is the wrong thing to do, but they're driven in emotion so strongly that they cannot protect themselves from that. So it is very important that we remove ourselves from that situation where we can fall into sin. Rather find a halal alternate for it. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ. So his Lord responded positively to him. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted supplication of Yusuf alayhi salam, فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ, and he averted from him their plot. Yani the women who were planning this deceptive action, it was averted from Yusuf alayhi salam. How? Innahu huwa samiul alim. Indeed, he is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening to all the du'as of Yusuf alayhi salam. He's also listening to all the du'as of that we make, all human beings, whatever we make. Well, alimu, and he's all-knowing. He's all-knowing of the circumstances we are in and we're trying to protect ourselves. So he's listening to the du'as. It's extremely important that we make du'a to him at all times. Big or small difficulty, no matter what situation we're in, we make du'a to him. we might not get exactly same what we are asking for, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide us something better in that situation. Either he will delay the solution, or he'll provide us right away the same thing, or he will delay the solution, or he will delay it till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves it for the reward for the akhirah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks this situation we are in is better than giving us the solution that we are asking for, he is the most wise, he knows what's the right thing for us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening and all knowing. That's why it is extremely important that we call out to him. If he thinks this is the best solution, he'll get us out of that situation. Summa badalahum. But we shouldn't get upset. One thing, we often get upset when we make dua for a long time, and then if we are not taken out of the situation, we get upset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though this is the test of submission, this is to prove we are Muslim, because if we are not submissive to the divine decree, then what kind of Muslim we are? How can we claim that we are Muslim when we don't even submit to Allah's decree? No matter how difficult the situation be, what is required from us is submission. Yes, we can feel sad, we can grieve, we can struggle, we can have good days and bad days, but the submission should be there. The heart should be submissive to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you feel weak and you feel sad and you don't want to do anything, you can spend some time in grief, but then pick yourself up, put yourself together, and follow the path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided for yourself, for you. ثم بدا لهم من بعد ما رأوا الآيات لا يسجننه حتى حين. Then it became apparent to them. Who them? The men. Now the story is leaked. Men know about this situation that's going around with Yusuf alayhi salam and the other women. من بعد ما رأوا الآيات, after they had seen the sign, and after they had seen that Yusuf alayhi salam was not inclined to do that bad action with those women, and it was proven that Yusuf alayhi salam is innocent, they thought that it is better to imprison him, send him in prison for some time to, deal with this situation that is going on, this slander that is going on. So they tried to remove him, and they removed him, and they imprisoned him to protect, of course, to resolve the situation where as they know that Yusuf alayhi salam is innocent. وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَدَيَّانٌ, and entered with him the two young boys in the prison. So when he is entering the prison, there are other two young boys who are entering the prison with him. Fatayan also means that they were probably the serving people, and we know that they were two slaves, they were two workers of the king, from Tafseer, that they were serving the king. And why they were imprisoned? Because there are different stories behind that. One of them tried attempting to poison the king, but because the blame was gone on both of them, so they were both imprisoned. And some say that some people who were conspiring against the king, and they tried to, use his service people, his people in service, to try to poison him. So that's how the story goes. But these two people are blamed for trying to poison the king when they were not successful, so they were imprisoned. قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا. One of them said, indeed, I saw myself pressing wine, and he's pressing the grapes to make wine. وقال الآخر, and the other one said, indeed, I saw, and this is a dream they both saw. So they both brought this dream to Yusuf alayhi salam to interpret the dream. The other said, indeed, I saw myself أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه. He said that I see myself carrying bread on my head, and I see the birds are eating from it. نبئنا بتأويله, inform us with its interpretation. إنا نراك من المحسنين, indeed we see you a muhsin, a doer of good. Yani Yusuf alayhi salam, he's just entering the prison, but he has this good reputation already. And this is what happens. Even people in prison know each other at the level where they know, who is a evil, bad person, who is a goon, and who is a good person. So in the prison, it's known that Yusuf alayhi salam is good. Maybe it was known in the community before he was imprisoned as well, that he could interpret dreams. Because these two people cannot just come to a man and they say, you know, give us the explanation of our dream. Maybe there was some reputation going around in the prison that these two men specifically came to Yusuf al-Islam. They asked for the interpretation of the dream they both saw. قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما. He said, your food, which is your nourishment, will not come to you except that I will inform you with its interpretation, yani with the interpretation of their dream before that your food comes to you. Yani before the meal is given to you, the next meal is given to you, I will inform you the interpretation of the dream. Yani he's holding the interpretation back, but he's explaining beforehand. He's saying that, yeah, don't get hasty here. I am going to give you the interpretation before the food comes. But before that, ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. Oh, you both, from whatever my knowledge is from my Lord. Yani whatever my knowledge I have with which I'm going to give you interpretation of your dreams, it is from my Lord, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now he's not taking the entitlement of that knowledge to himself. Rather, he's showing that he's associating the knowledge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He found this opportunity where some people are in need of his knowledge and he uses it for dawah. He's inviting them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's see how he goes. إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. And he says, indeed, I have abandoned the religion of a nation who do not believe in Allah, and they're disbelievers in afterlife. So iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is important, of course. And besides that, we don't worship any other God. So he's saying that, oh, who do not believe in Allah, and we know that he's in Egypt, people worship Pharaoh as a god, not Allah as a god. So it's common that king is being worshipped for him being the leader and him being the provider of all people, because this is how they represented and this is how people saw. So, and also second thing, akhirah, he's mentioning that these people are disbelievers in afterlife. It is very important that having belief in one God and also believing in afterlife, realizing that there is accountability of our actions, because this is the thing that keeps us on track. If we forget or don't care or don't believe that there is a God who would hold us accountable in afterlife, then we will not keep a check on our power, on our work, on our authority, how we deal with people. So it is extremely important to have strong belief in afterlife, because this is what corrects the behavior of people. So he mentions the most important two things to them as a first dawah, and these are the two things that we should bring up when we are giving dawah: worshipping Allah alone and having the sense that there is accountability in afterlife. This life is not all, because often people are deceived by this life, and this is the most common phenomenon. Especially, I think, even if it was common in all eras, but in our era, people don't even worship any god. They worship their desire most of the time. They follow what they like to do, not a god. And majority of the people say, yeah, my parents were Christian or Jew or Muslim, no, subhanallah, but then I'm not practicing. And this is common as more and more generations live in these countries that are non-Muslim countries, and parents themselves are not practicing. They practice little, and then eventually next generations stop practicing even that much, and then they become atheist. Unfortunately, may Allah protect us from this dilemma and our children as well. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. And I follow the religion of my father, Ibrahim and Ishaq and Yaqub. And he gives the whole chain. He mentions about his father, Yaqub al-Islam, and his grandfather, Ishaq al-Islam, and his grandfather, Ibrahim al-Islam. And he says that I follow their religion. مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِن شَيْءٍ. And imagine he is from a monotheist family, living in a place which is famous. People must know those prophets. And he is son of a prophet. But he is now in a land where people are worshipping a man, a leader. So how difficult that situation is to cope with. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him strength, and he is giving him prophethood to do dawah. And this is how strong a Muslim is supposed to be. The story is not here for us to just read and enjoy and move on. No, it is there for us when we are in such situation where we see few people practicing. No matter what the other people, what majority is doing, we are supposed to follow the religion that we are given, that we understand is correct. And that's why it's extremely important that we have knowledge, true divine knowledge, which will help us, show us the way. So he said that it is not appropriate for us that we associate partners with Allah with anything. Yani we create something or some being as a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. That is favor of Allah on us and on the people. So yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that family as a prophet and gave them knowledge. So it is Allah's favor on them. But how it's on people? Because through this family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is educating the entire humanity. So they are being chosen. It's favor of Allah on people as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose someone to spread the message, the correct paths, and so that people can save themselves from the punishment of afterlife. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. But most of the people are not grateful. So here we see this is the best form of gratitude, that first of all, he is not taking the credit of knowledge himself that he has, that people need from him. He mentions that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's doing the step one, mentioning the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him. And this is the first thing we should do when we have a blessing. We say it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A job, children, anything special that we are given, we should know that this is not my achievement, it's rather favor of Allah on me. So first of all, mention the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says it's Allah's favor. And now he's helping that knowledge, he's taking using that knowledge to help people. And this is another form of gratitude, that the next level of gratitude, that where we use the blessing in order to serve Allah's deen, in obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're using that blessing. So this is another form of gratitude, practical form of gratitude. First mention it with the tongue, and then practically use it to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do. Ya sahiba sijni, O my companions of prison. So here we see him creating association with the prisoners. He didn't say, and he probably understood that one of them is a killer. Even then, he's so lenient. And he is creating association here. When we create association with people, create this bond with people. Give me a moment, please. So we see him creating association with people of prison. When we create this bond with other people, it's easy for them to accept what we're giving them, what we're inviting them to. So this is another etiquette we learn from him, how to deal with people, how to connect with people, no matter where we are going, no matter what religion people are following. Islam doesn't teach you to point fingers at them and say, kafir, kafir, kafir. No, that's not what Islam teaches us. Rather, we're supposed to do dawah. We are carrying religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a huge responsibility on us. And we are supposed to have that kindness in our heart and sincerity for other people to protect and save them, because they don't know and we know. We have the truth and they don't. And that's why we'll be held accountable too for not conveying it if we don't convey it. So he says, "Oh, my companions of prison, arbabun mutafarrikuna khairun amillahul wahidul qahhar." Are the various gods better, or Allah the one, the omnipotent? Yani Allah, who is the one and only, there's no God besides him, and he is the supreme, has the supreme power. No one can do anything beyond what Allah decides for them. He has superpower over them. He does whatever he intends to do, and people cannot stop him from implementing that power on them. And no one can stop Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from doing what He decides to do. So He's Al Qahar, He has complete power, complete um, grasp over people. Ma ta'buduna min dunihi, what you all worship besides Him, yani besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, illa asma'un sammaytumuha antum wa aba'ukum. It is not except names which you named yourself and your forefathers. Yani all these idols that you have created to worship, these are just names that you have named. Yani you just created these stories, and either you or your fathers have done it. Ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. Allah has not sent any divine any divine authority with that about that. Yani there is no divine book. There is no evidence given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to humanity that they should worship other gods besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they should worship these idols that people worship. There is no authority. Rather, these are just fake stories, made up stories that people started. Um, they were righteous people, they created idols of them, and then eventually they started worshipping them after a few generations had passed. Excuse me. إن الحكم إلا لله أمر ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه. The authority is not except for Allah. He commanded that you should not worship except Him. Yani, the final judgment, final decision is only in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is his command? His command is that you should not worship anyone but Him. Now He's trying to invite them to monotheism, that they should, but He's not forcing it on them. He's just using different arguments to connect them and convey the message that they should worship only one God. ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. That is the well established upright religion, yani that is the correct religion, but most of the people do not know. So he's saying that it's okay if you're doing something else, you're worshiping something else. It's just because people don't have the knowledge of this correct religion. This is the correct religion that I'm following, and you should follow that too. Now he's not forcing them to take shahada. It's like, okay, let's take shahada right now. No, he's giving them information and giving them time to process. And this is the correct way to give dawah. You don't force people to take shahada until they are ready themselves to take shahada. But you're open and you're giving them clear information, and you're not being you're not insulting anyone. You're not, see how he just said that all of this, there is no evidence to follow and worship others, and there's no divine book. It's just that there are fairy tales that are out there that exist, and then you're following that. Or maybe your fathers created those names and you're worshiping it. There is no actual book that exists that you should do it. A divine book, because people have made fake books, right? يا صاحب يا صاحبي السجن أما أحدكما فيسقي ربه خمرا. Oh, my companions of prison, as for one of you, now he's going to give them interpretation of their dream. As for one of you, then he will give his master wine to drink. Yani he will be saved from the prison. He will not be punished, and he will go back on his job. He'll serve the king, and his job was to press the grapes to make wine, and he will serve the wine to the master, to the king, or whoever the master was. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ فَيُصْلَبُ فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ. And as for the other, yani the one who saw the birds were eating from his head, then he will be crucified. Then he'll be left so that the birds will eat from his head. Yani he will be crucified, he will be killed for his crime that he committed. He tried to, it is said that it was a baker who tried to poison the bread, and but the bread spoke, or somebody told the king that it's a poisonous bread and he should not eat. So the king was saved, but then 2 people were imprisoned. So the birds will eat from his head because he will be his dead body will be left out to be eaten by the birds. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. The matter has been decided, in which you ask for verdict. Yani whatever interpretation you were asking me about, this is the matter, and it has been decided. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ, we learn from the narrations of Prophet ﷺ that when the interpretation of a dream is given, up until it's not given any interpretation, the dream stays hanging in the claws of the bird. But when an interpretation is given, then it becomes reality. So, as I mentioned in earlier class as well, that we should be very careful not to mention our bad dreams at all, not force our kids to share their bad dreams with us, rather advise them to spit on the left shoulder 3 times. And we should also, if they're extremely afraid, then we should comfort them. We should comfort them that it was a bad thought from the devil, or we should introduce this concept of devil to our kids' young age so that they understand that there's an invisible enemy who's attacking them and they need to protect themselves from it. If they can be introduced with all kind of superheroes and fairy tales, then this is not a big concept for them. I'm sure the kids of our time, they are more knowledgeable, subhanallah, than we have seen kids in the past, or as being children we were. وقال للذي وقال للذي ظن أنه ناج منهما اذكرني عند ربك فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربي. So now he has given them the verdict, but he moves on and talk to the one who he thought will be saved. He asked him, so he talked to the one who he thought will be saved among the both of them. He says, mention me near your Lord, near your master. So he's trying to be freed from the prison. So he asks him that talk to your king or your master about me, that I have been imprisoned without I'm innocent and there is no blame, there's no sin that I'm being imprisoned for. So, in order to gain his freedom back, nobody wants to stay in the prison. He wanted to get out of that situation, so he said, okay, yeah, I'm going to prison is better. And he was in prison and he was okay, but then he's trying to get out. But what happened? The devil made him forget. So this man who was saved, who was going to press the wine and give it to his master. And again, in the previous ayah, Rabb here is not referred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being Rabb, rather, it's the master, the owner of that slave. So Shaitan makes him forget to mention to his master about Yusuf alayhi salam. So we see here that devil plays often vital role in causing difficulty in our life. And it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him respite, he's given him time to be able to do all the deception he wants to do so that he can earn worse kind of punishment for himself in afterlife. But then we should remain patient and have trust in Allah's plan, because nothing happens without Allah's plan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed this to happen, and the shaitan made that man forget to mention Yusuf alayhi salam to his master. وَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. Then he remained in the prison for a number of years, for several years. Bid'ah here, in Arabic, it's a number between 3 to 9. It's not a big number, but it is not a small number. Like 3 to 9 years in prison is not an easy thing. So Yusuf alayhi salam, we don't know exact how long he remained there, but from 3 to 9 years almost, he still remained in prison after those men were released. Then after this, another story starts when the king, that man who was serving the king, who was saved among the two companions of Yusuf alayhi salam who were in the prison. So that man, when he remembers Yusuf alayhi salam when the king sees a dream. Now the next ayah starts that story, which story goes for at least 2 pages. So inshallah, we'll start that story in the next class. We'll conclude here, inshallah. If you have anything to mention, then please go ahead. If you have any remarks or any question, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, so the story of Joseph, Yusuf, is as a parent, my son, okay, so I have 3 kids. So Muhammad's the youngest, then Hakeem, then Kareem. Kareem is the oldest. I don't say I pay more attention to Muhammad, but I worry more about him than I do the rest. So when I'm talking to Kareem, sometimes I slip and I ask him about his brother, how's your brother? And he's trying to tell me about something going on at work or something happening. And then in the middle of it, I'll ask him, did you talk to your brother? I didn't realize that he got so upset that he told his dad, why is mom always talking about Muhammad? Why is this? Why is that? Does she not care about me as much as, as she cares about him? And then my husband told him, it's not that she don't care about you. It's Muhammad lives in Tampa. He doesn't live in Lakeland. So she doesn't see him as much as she sees you. So she's worried about him. So I didn't know he's 34. He's not a young kid, my oldest son, but it bothered him till this day because he would always call the younger one the golden child. He would say, "Oh, he's your golden child," and I really didn't pay attention, but I didn't realize it upset him to that level. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm just saying that it's really affecting him. And as
Well,
if you guys have kids, more than one kid, please make sure you pay extra attention to both kids because as they get older, they still have that feeling that you
yeah,
like the other kid more than them. So
that's
it
true.
just
That's true. It's a
yeah.
natural feeling that kids always carry around. And it's extremely important that parents are extremely just towards all kids. And whenever the misconceptions are created, it is extreme. I'm so happy that your husband gave explanation on your behalf and tried to console your son, because Shaitan is there to put negative feelings. Even though you know he said things about your son that of course are true. Similarly, I have only two kids, and sometimes when I kiss one, the other one is jealous. So I have to kiss both of them together and pay attention to both of them and tell them, I love you as much as I love the other one. So if one girl and one boy, I say, you are my best son and you're my best daughter. I am not in a situation where I would have two daughters in. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only tests you what you can bear. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make ease for everyone. And we are able
Mm,
to be just with our children, and we are able to remove those negative feelings from their hearts so they always trust us. I remember
mm,
we were four kids, we were four siblings, and we always had this competition. So older siblings, they always got more respect, and more parents would listen to them, and we younger ones were always getting more love. So there was always something one receiving more than the other. But as you grow up, you realize how good you're like. I realize all my siblings, we all know that how every child had the special place in heart in heart of our mom and dad. So everyone had a different place, not exactly same as, like, my older sister has a different place in my parents' life, and I have a different place. And I realize that it's because of how I behave back to my parents, or what my situation or scenario is, and how my sister is to them. So every child has to understand that that's responsibility of every grown up, of course. But then parents are supposed to be just as well. They have to compensate one, if they're giving something to the other. Anyone else?
Jazakallah khair
Try
for the
to
explanation.
want to share their feelings on this? Okay, no one wants to share. Okay, I'd really like if you all share, and inshallah, we always learn from each other. I might learn something from you all as well. Barakallahu feekum for coming and continuing to learn. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you all steadfast. One thing I want to mention before we conclude today's class is that I'm busy for next 2 weeks. We have a family reunion at my place, and we are also going to be traveling a lot. We have frequent plans. So I will not be taking class next 2 weeks. Inshallah, our next class will be first week of January. I'll mention the date in the class so there's no confusion in the WhatsApp group. Inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan kathira. Inshallah, we'll conclude here with dua. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. نشهد الله إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام.